Am I the jerk for not stepping into a conflict my husband has with his ex-wife? My 32F husband, 32M, was divorced from his first wife almost 6 years ago. We met 2 years after the divorce and have married earlier this year. For identification, I'll call my husband A and his ex-wife, 30F, L. A and L have no children or assets from their marriage. In fact, infertility was a source of conflict in their marriage. Fertility testing showed both parties to have dysfunction causing reduced fertility, but not sterility. A told me that he is no longer in contact with L because she never respected his boundaries during their marriage and continued to push boundaries after the marriage ended. My understanding is that she wanted to continue a deep friendship after the divorce, and A simply didn't have the emotional bandwidth to accommodate. And when told so, L did not respect his wishes. A has no social media and has blocked L on email and phone number for years. Recently, Elle reached out to me via social media asking me to pass the message to A that she would like him to call her. I told her I'd pass the message along, and I did. My husband did not call her. The next day, Elle messaged me asking why I didn't pass the message along. I told her that I did, and if A were planning to call that he would on his own time. Elle reached out to my mother-in-law with the same request. My mother-in-law found it odd, but she passed the message along as well. My husband still did not call. Elle then reached out to my sister-in-law, and at this point, it seems a little over the top. Elle messaged me again asking why I didn't speak up for her with my husband. I'm not gonna lie, it just never occurred to me. It seems to me that this is a them sort of issue, not a me sort of issue. I asked my husband why he wouldn't call, and he told me there simply wasn't anything for them to discuss, and he doesn't want his ex-wife to believe contacting us will get her what she wants. The thing is, he's a really reasonable guy with solid decision-making skills. I trust him and take him at face value. I don't believe he's being malicious or flippant, and I don't think it's really my place to step in. Elle has continued on to badmouth me for not letting my husband talk to her. It turns out that Elle is pregnant and the father is not involved. Elle never reverted to her maiden name after the divorce and wants to give her baby my husband's last name. I think it's really decent of her to talk to my husband about this first, to be honest. I told my husband why she wants him to contact her, and I believe he is reconsidering the phone call, but I'm not sure. Am I the jerk for not making a case with my husband to talk to his ex-wife? To me, this seems like a case of his ex-wife knowing that what she wants to talk about is reasonable, but also not communicating that at all, so no one else knows. And so she just tells her ex-husband that she wants to talk to him, and of course he's like, I don't know, that bridge is kind of burned and I kind of like it that way. So of course when she actually says why she wants to talk to him, he's going to be like, oh, there's an actual reason, yeah, makes sense. Either way, I think OP is perfectly correct in assuming it's not really their place. It's not a them problem, as they said. So yeah, not the jerk. Am I the jerk for telling my mother her forcing me to go to church is a big part of why I'm mentally ill? My mother is Mormon. She raised me this way, and since I can remember, I escaped the lessons and came to her class to tell her I wanted to go home. The lessons made me uncomfortable, and eventually they got a woman to sit at the door whose only job was to make sure I don't leave. There were many lessons that I expressed to her made me upset, but she just told me that I would get used to it and everything I was learning is what God wanted me to learn. I was told Hitler is in heaven. Mormonism has 3 tiers of heaven and he's in the lowest one as there's no hell. Only outer darkness, which is where I'll end up because I've denied the religion. Hitler can't end up there because he was never taught of Mormonism, and denying your religion is like the only way you end up there. I was told that any loss of my purity was my fault, no matter the circumstances. I had been taught my entire life it is literally better to be dead than unclean, and yes, it was phrased exactly like that. I was told I was the woman. The woman is the one who says something or does something or wears something that puts a man in that mindset. I'm in my early 20s now, and while there have been more incidents than this that make me uncomfortable, like being told my depression is my fault because it's a choice, / I have no reason to be so angry on the inside, I refuse to go back and haven't been since I was 18. Here's where I might be the jerk. I told my mom that her forcing me to go to church my entire life was a big part of why I'm so damaged now. Mostly from the people, and the pressure you have to be perfect and never show weakness, but also everything else I've already listed. I made her cry, and while that wasn't my intention, I feel like, since she's a convert and never attended the 1.5 to 18-year-old classes, she's finally feeling a little bit of what I did. Am I the jerk? So I'm gonna open up with OP is not the jerk. No way at all is OP the jerk here. It is very possible that the things that OP was told in the Church of Mormonism were things that would damage stuff like self-worth and boundaries and stuff like that, and I can totally see how that would lead to a path of depression, let alone being predisposed to it genetically or whatever. So that sounds pretty fair, and telling the mother that seems pretty fair too. I don't think it's like against the freedom of religion thing because it directly affected OP. It wasn't someone else's beliefs and just their own beliefs. It was that person trying to force someone else into those beliefs, even if it is their daughter. Also, just from like a logistical kind of like convincing people standpoint, I feel like forcing her to go didn't really, I don't know, it is not a great idea. I feel like there are better ways to get someone to like believe in an idea than forcing them to adhere to it, because that's a good way to push them away, no? Anyway, whatever. OP's not the jerk. This whole situation is weird. Bye. Am I the jerk for wearing the joke bikini my friend got me? So it was my birthday a couple of months ago. I had a party and got some gifts. My friend Mandy got me a super cute bikini. I liked it, said thanks, and she had ripped the tags off, but whatever. Anyway, went to the community pool with my roommate. Wore bikini, got in the water. Roommate immediately is like, girl? I look and see that this bikini is now kinda see-through. Haha, good joke, Mandy. Anyway, Mandy invited me over to her place to hang out with her and her BF and a few others. Most leave and we're still hanging out. I'm like, hey, what if we get in your hot tub? I go change after them. I meet her BF in the hot tub and she's getting drinks. I hop in and immediately he's looking at my chest. I pretend I don't notice and just make small talk. She comes out a few minutes after and just looks in shock. She eventually gets in. Is that the one I bought? Yeah, I love it. I wear it everywhere. I make up some stuff about how I wore it to the beach, some party with lots of guys, etc. And she's just like, oh, we're in the tub for about 20 to 30. Eventually we get out and change. She approached me after and was like, I'm sorry, I thought you noticed, but it goes kinda see-through. I'm like, yeah, I know. Why do you buy me a see-through bathing suit? She's like, it's a joke. Wait, you knew? You just spent the last 30 minutes flashing my boyfriend on purpose? I reply, I'm just wearing my birthday gift from her. Anyway, am I the jerk? Now, I hope this isn't just my bias as a straight male coming through, but it very well might be. I think this is hilarious. The prank itself is kind of funny, but also like kind of not great, actually. It's funny if it happens to be worn for the first time in the company of people that you knew, but if it was at like a public pool for the first time, then that's not great. Like it was worn at the public pool for the first time, because then you are exposing yourself and you didn't really know. That super sucks. That's indecent to everyone involved, including the people who have to see it if they didn't feel comfortable seeing that sort of thing, which is actually more likely than not, believe it or not, guys. And also, obviously, the person exposing themselves without knowing. So that's kind of crappy, but the joke itself is kind of fun. But the counter joke, what a great way to play off the situation. Like, oh, it's see-through? How did I didn't know. I don't think OP's the jerk here. They just turned the joke back onto their friend, and that seems fine to me. Am I the jerk for dropping our dinner on the ground and walking out when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight, bitch?" I was over at my boyfriend's apartment this weekend and I was cooking dinner because he was studying for exams. I made pasta and a chunky sauce with meatballs and veggies. I told him dinner was ready and he goes, "What's for dinner tonight, bitch?" with like a lot of emphasis on the last word. I'd had a pretty rough day with work and I have some really awfully bad associations with that word being used by other people in my life who were pretty abusive. So I was so irritated that I dropped the pot of pasta sauce I had been carrying right on the ground and was like, well, nothing's for dinner tonight now. And I better not hear you using that word again, it's for the girls. He was freaking out about how sauce had landed on his rug, and he even said, "You're seriously acting like a bitch right now. I don't know what else to call it." I just walked out and got takeout for myself and went to my friend's house. She thought it was funny, but my boyfriend was furious. He kept texting and calling and sending me voice memos trying to explain that "what's for dinner tonight, bitch" was a TikTok trend, and that he was just quoting something as a joke to put on TikTok. I thought that was the crappiest excuse ever. It doesn't matter if he saw it as a joke or stole the joke, it was still disrespectful. But it didn't change the fact that he thought that crap was funny, to demean me when I was trying to do him a favor. Like hell, I came over when he was studying to make a home-cooked dinner and he decides it's time for jokes? So I put my phone on Do Not Disturb for the rest of the night and split a bottle of wine with my friend and her roommate. The next morning, he was sending me angry texts demanding I clean his rug because he was too busy with exams to do it. I was shocked he left it overnight. That's disgusting. I texted him back saying, "Yeah, so that's the bitch tax, honey. Leave me alone till you're ready to handle your own cooking and cleaning because this bitch isn't anymore. Also, it's vile you left that soaking in all night." He called me and told me he was okay with doing his own household work, but I did throw a full pot of sauce at the ground, so that's on me to clean up. I told him, "Yeah, I'm not comfortable doing chores for you if you see me like your bitch." He told me he didn't and it was just a trend, and I got upset that he was playing that TikTok trend BS excuse again. And I told him, well, I'm starting a new trend called saucing, where as a little joke, people throw pasta sauce around. You can't be mad because it's just a little trend, a little jokey joke, just a prank, bro. He got really upset and hung up on me, and now I'm seriously wondering if this dumb frickin' TikTok joke is going to be the end of things between us. Am I the jerk for how I reacted when my boyfriend asked me what's for dinner tonight, bitch? I don't really know how to feel about this one. On one hand, I do hate those "it's just a prank, bro" moments. Like those suck. The people doing them are like always bad people. I personally don't use TikTok, and I'm sure it actually is a trend because I feel like I've seen like similar things. The trend itself feels a little weird to me, but like it's pretty in keeping with what I come to expect from something like TikTok trends. I also feel like there's a reason that most of those TikTok trend sort of things are staged most of the time, so you don't get reactions like this. Anyway, I'm sure I could say that the OP's reaction was overblown due to what it was. And it kind of was, but this man doubled down way too hard if that was just a joke. He obviously didn't understand that words carry weight, and sometimes that weight is too much for another person depending on what else is going on in their life or just even that day. OP said that she has experienced past abuse with that kind of language, and so I kind of understand the visceral reaction. That's got to bring up some pretty unhappy memories, especially at a time where you feel pretty safe because you're with your partner. But the boyfriend asking to clean up the sauce and whatever, come on, man. Just like, take responsibility for your own actions, really. Sure, you could easily say, oh, she shouldn't have dropped the whole pot of sauce, that's an overreaction. But like, the man also didn't have to say that. And if he got upset about this instead of apologetic for like causing that reaction in general, then I don't know, he doesn't sound like a winner to me. I'm gonna personally say that OP is not the jerk, but also if you disagree with me, I think I understand on this one. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance/college money? Context. My sister, F27, and I, 18F, lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mom was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left money, inheritance, for me and my sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now because my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be a doctor but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about Dad, and he mocked his illness and made a scene at his funeral. He did all this because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot lately, venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital for heart problems and in need for a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I ended up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery, and she'd pay it back. I felt uneasy because if I give her money for my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay it back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a gap year, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel, and having no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority and I needed to help because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me this is what I was saying no to. A happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish and not a good aunt or sister. I asked my friend and he said let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery. And he warned me if I give them the money, I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. OP, prioritize your school. That's all that I have to say. That's not true, there's more that I want to say. This man disrespected where the money came from, essentially, the inheritance. He disrespected the father that gave you the inheritance. And then he expects a piece of that money? Yeah, right. Get screwed, buddy. Chronic health conditions super suck. I will never not say that. It doesn't give you an excuse to just be a jerk, though. This guy sounds so bad. And also, they seem to have plenty of ways to get the money to pay for the surgery. They have multiple cars? I'm assuming multiple cars for each of them, not just one for each. Sell those. Like, come on. You can't have all these luxury items and then ask for money from people. That's so gross. OP is not the jerk. Am I the jerk for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mom standing there with her luggage? I, F20, don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do and sometimes even copying me. Like this one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine. And when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So anyway, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country. Tourism, in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw a temper tantrum when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum. He said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say, fine, I'll tell her to stop it because we won't take her. Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him about it, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and the first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me, and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging, and that's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He said I was overreacting and that his mom was there anyway, and I should just let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him he and his mom could still go, but I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom, it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me and then called my family to tell them that the trip was canceled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have just sucked it up and done my best to enjoy it. Did I really overreact?